Hello, how you doing? Oh, yeah. Hi, welcome. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad to have you here. Yeah, my name is Hayo, and I am with these guys, Stringify. It's good to have you around, and I'm excited to have you here. On this channel.
All right, welcome everyone. Those joining us on YouTube and all the channels we're streaming to. Welcome everyone. I'm glad to have everyone around again. Welcome, and it's good to have you join us on this session today. All right. I'm excited once more. Every time we have trainings like this and sessions like this, I'm always excited because those are opportunities to bring, much more learning to a lot of people, and then bring so much change to the world as much as it demands. I'm so excited to have everyone join us in this training. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And then, it's going to be a very wonderful 1 hour session that's going to be awesome. If you have questions, you can drop your questions on the chat windows and all of that, and we'll be able to answer all of the questions that we might have. All right. So today we're talking about working with data sources in Microsoft Power Platform. Working with data sources in Microsoft Power Platform. All right. I'm sure some of us are probably new to Microsoft Power Platform, and I'm sure some of us are already experienced or intermediate when it comes to the ecosystem of Microsoft Power Platform. However, you see, Microsoft Power Platform is a data-driven system, all right? It's a data-driven system, so which means most things that happens in the Microsoft Power Platform is driven by what? By data. All right. So we'll be looking at what are those data sources, what do they mean, how do we use them, what are their pros and their cons, what are their types, and all of that. So those are the things we'll be delving into in the next few minutes that we'll be talking and looking at it technically also. All right. And then to move forward, my name is Hayor, and I'm with these guys here, Stringify. All right. And you know these are the few things I love to do. I'm a Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics CRM engineer. I'm a software and DevOps engineer, also a functional consultant and a solution architect. And I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and professional. All right. I love to evangelize technology, and I'm so driven by digital transformation. All right. You can connect with me via my email addresses, via LinkedIn, and I love to connect. I love to build things. So I'll be glad to meet up with as many people as possible. To let's get some things going. All right. Awesome stuff. Okay, so going forward and not wasting our time, going forward and delving into this extensively. Um, we're looking at what our agendas are for today, and today we'll be looking at things around what are data sources. All right, what are data sources, assessing data in Power Platform, different types of data sources, the do's and don't of data sources. So we're talking about data sources, and like I said when we started, that word, Microsoft Power Platform is a data-driven system. So we must understand that. So when we come into the Microsoft Power Platform, whether you are coming from the skill set point of being a Power Apps developer, a Power Automate developer, an RPA developer, a Power BI developer, a Power Virtual Agent developer, whichever you are, the key thing is that what this is a data-driven ecosystem. All right. So we are very keen on data. Data is a major deal when it comes to the Microsoft Power Platform. All right. So without wasting our time, we have just an hour, so we need to hit good nail on the head. All right. uh we'll be looking at what are data sources. Let's start from there. What are data sources? So you see, data sources are service point that stores information or data. So what are we saying here? I'm saying that what you have points where, for example, you have where your data is being stored, right? And it means that what if data is being stored somewhere, definitely the data will be used in another place, right? So when we store data somewhere, we are definitely using that data somewhere else. So data sources, like we say, is what is that storage point, that point where information is being gathered. Now the thing is, this service feature can either be a read data or a read information. What do I mean by that? I mean that what it can be informations where you just have to probably see that there's an information somewhere. Also, it could actually be an information you can probably, or it could be a source that you can actually write into, which means that what you can probably pass an information into that source and all of that. So whether it's a point where it allows you right into it, or it's just a point where you can only read from it, the fact still remain that what it is called a data source. It is called a data source. And then what it means is that what it holds information, it holds data. All right. Now the system in this case are could be cloud based, could be on premise and all of that. Whichever scenario it is that you're working with, the major thing is that what it holds data for us. All right. Okay, going forward, we'll look at how then do we access data. How do we access this data? I've talked about data sources, right, being a point that holds information. So if it holds information, how do I access those data? How do I use those data? I'm a Power Apps engineer. I'm a Power Automate engineer. I need to be able to query data from this SharePoint. I need to be able to query data from this uh, Dataverse. I need to be able to query data from this Excel and all of that. Then how then do I, in this case, leverage or access those kind of data? So in Microsoft, when we talk about data sources and accessing data sources information or data, then we're talking about what data connectors. So what are data connectors? Data connectors are some sort of a wrapper, or a wrapper that more like an underlying service that helps you talk to what Power Automate, Power Apps, Azure Logic Apps, Power BI, and all of that. So data connector stands is more like a bridge that stands in between your Power Platform system and then the service point you're trying to talk to. So there's a service point I'm trying to query data from, I'm trying to probably get data from or write data to. Then I have a connector in between that talks to both systems. So the connector is more like a bridge that passes information from one point to another and returns information if needed to Power Platform. All right. So data connectors is then how we communicate, right, between a data source or a data service and the Microsoft Power Platform. So in case you've heard of connectors, if you're a software developer, you would understand when we say APIs, application programming interface, APIs, endpoint, web services, and all of that. What those things do, what those systems do, is just help us to what transport data. So we're able to transport data, have mobility of data. All right. So it's not far-fetched also in Microsoft. When we come to Microsoft, we are saying the same thing. All right. So Microsoft also uses data connector to then what have data interactions between the Microsoft Power Platform system and the web service or the data source that you are talking to in this case. All right. For example, in Microsoft itself, you might be building a Power Apps, you might be building a Power Automate, and you probably want to send an email, leverage on an email. Then in that case, you want to use a connector called Outlook connector, right? You might want to return an information from Azure Active Directory. You would have to use a connector in Azure, right? You might want to query a list information. If you are familiar with SharePoint, you might want to query a list information. Then you are going to be using a SharePoint connector. So these are all connectors. Now, these are not just Microsoft related connectors alone. You can also be talking to a third party. In this case, there are third party connectors, right? SAP, Typeform, Salesforce, Gmail, Twitter. There are quite a lot of third party connectors. The idea is this: Microsoft has come in sort of kind of an agreement to be able to receive exposed web service from those parties. So Salesforce has exposed its APIs, SAP has exposed its API, Typeform has exposed its API. So because they have all exposed their API to Microsoft, Microsoft is then able to do what? To use those API. Microsoft is then able to what? To query those APIs and allow us use those APIs what in the Microsoft Power Platform. So when you are working with Microsoft Power Platform, you're coming into a low code, no code technology, right? You are trying to build applications, automate processes. You work in a finance department, an HR department, a technology department. You are trying to automate your process. You're trying to build new processes, and then you say, I'm not a programmer. I don't write programs. I don't know how to code, but I would like to build a process. And then you've learned how to do that with the Power Platform. Then it means that what you are going to be talking at every point in time with data sources, whether it is Microsoft services or third-party services. We also have what we call on-premise services. So there are systems or solutions that have they are situated on-premise. When I say on-premise, they are local or deployed on your machine. I'm sure everybody on this call is either joining me from your PCs or your mobile phones. Majority on their PCs, right? So you have applications that are on your PCs that are not on the web, right? Those are called on-premise applications. So those kind of on-premise application also might need to probably be automated, right? You might need to also talk to those kind of services. Now, to talk to those kind of services, you definitely can still do that via, so they have their own data sources that you can still connect to Power Platform. You have SQL Server, you have SharePoint on premise, and all of that. So, and other services like that. The most interesting of them all is custom API services. What if Microsoft does not have this connector of what I want to do? What happens? Microsoft does not have these connectors. Then what happens? Then in this case, we have what we call custom connectors, Azure Functions, APIs. Why? We can build custom connectors to now interpret an API. Probably you are working for an organization calls you and say, we have this API from our website or from our web application. We have a Power Platform license. We want to build an automation. However, we want data to come from this our website and then use that data on Power Platform. What do? You bridge the gap by what? Building a custom connector. Do not forget, everyone, what I taught us earlier was that what helps Power Platform talk to any other data source is what we call data connectors. So data connectors stand in between your Power Platform system and your third party system. All right. I hope you understand that. Now, the interesting thing is that, we're talking about data sources here, right? And, like I said, data sources is that, is that system that holds data in this case, right? Don't forget that part. So data sources hold your data. So we have data somewhere. Data must be stored somewhere. Now, data sources are not always database. Don't forget that, because a lot of people will think when we say data sources is database. No, it does not always have to be a database. Okay, data sources are just information storage points. All right, it helps you to hold information. Some are exposable. It means that what, because they hold information, you can write to them, you can query from them. Okay, and that is why when we talk about data sources, there are two major types of data sources. When we talk about data sources now, in this case, we have the tabular data sources, and we have the function based. So when we have tabular and function based, now if you are familiar or you are a SQL Server developer, a SQL Server or a database administrator, and all of that, I'm sure you'll be familiar with tables when it comes to database, with rows and columns and all of that. Now, if you're not, and you are probably say um not a database engineer, you just come into tech or something like that, I'm sure you are familiar with things like maybe your OneDrive and all of that, because in OneDrive you can store your videos, store your image files, store your PDFs, store your Word document and all of that, right? But there are also storage points. There are data sources that holds information, right? They hold information. Don't lose that. So there are informations that comes in columns, in rows, and all of that. There are informations that are function based. So what do I mean by function based? You don't have to have them in tables and columns, right? They are just basically what are meant to do or perform a specific kind of action in this case, right? So if you look at it, tabular data sources allow storage of data in a structured table manner. You see that everybody knows what table is. Tables must have columns and it must have rows. So it allows you store data in a structured table manner, right? Another interesting thing about tabular is that what it allows you to return data easily. You can return data easily as you need it, as needed. Whether you're working in Power Apps, you're working in Power Automate, you're working in Power BI, you can return data easily. Now, it allows you also to query data, as in you can query specific actions, you can pick specific actions up, you can perform specific things. That's one interesting thing. So for example, let's take a look at I'm going to just share a different screen now. This is office.com, where I'm currently in office.com. So let's open one of those. Don't forget I said there are many data sources, right? SharePoint, Dataverse, SQL, and a lot of them. But let's open one of them and let's do a demo, a small demo with one of them. So I'm going to open SharePoint. So SharePoint is more like an intranet system, very interesting intranet system that allows you can act as both database, storage point, and all of that. So this is SharePoint, everyone. To access SharePoint, you need to probably have like a Microsoft 365 license and all of that to be able to use or leverage on SharePoint in this case. All right. So let's look at this first. Let's open SharePoint. Now, what we want to do now is we want to create a database, more like a table in this case, right? More like a table. Let's create something like a table. Let's go back. Let's go back and let's open one of our sites. Stringify training. Excellent. So this is SharePoint, everyone. For those who have not seen SharePoint before, it appears like a website, uh, and these are all lists. So list, SharePoint call it list, Dataverse, SQL call it tables. Okay, so let's create a new one. I'm going to create a new list. Just watch how I'm doing this. Very straightforward. And I'm going to create a blank list. A blank list. All right. And then I'm just going to call the list. Let's just look for a simple or a generic name just to call our list in this case. All right. Say, let's call it training list. Let's call it training list. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Then let's create it. All right. All right. So we're going to create our training list. All right. So now if you look at it already, you would see that what it's already showing more like columns. You can see the columns already forming in this case, right? If you're familiar with Excel, if you open up Excel, right? Excel gives you your tables and your rows, your tables and your rows. So exactly the same way you have it in Excel is the same way you can have it here. So we're going to be creating some kind of tables and rows, right? So I can leave this as title, that's fine. I'm just going to call, I'm going to call this a different information. Let me call it, say, let's do single line of text. Let's look at it on the project level. Say, okay, I want a project lead. So you see that it opens up this place for me to pass in an information, right? So let me say project lead, project lead. And let's just save it. That's fine. Let's get another one. Let's call it multi-line, and let's call it project description. Just something like that. Project description. All right. Okay. We can do a choice. Can do a choice and say which department is handling this project, right? Which department is handling this project? And then let's say there's marketing, there's software development, um, say there's infrastructure department. All right. Let's add one more. Infrastructure, software. Okay, let's say designs, product designs. So, okay. Excellent. Perfect. So, let me create one more, just one more. Let me call it, okay, project lead, project department, project information. Okay, what's the project name? Let's do that. So project, what's the project name? Something like that. Name. All right. So let's do project name. So you will see that what we have done on the screen currently, if you can look at my screen, what we've done currently on the screen is that we've been able to do or to create a simple list. Now, in this case, to Power Platform, SharePoint is a data source. So I've been able to create a list here, right? Let's put some few informations in that list, right? So I'm saying that title of the project is probably migration of subscription, something like that. That's the title of the project. And then project lead is probably Hayo Ayotunde Ayola, and then the description is what? Migrating all expensive subscription to a different tenant, something like that. Yeah. Let's select the department that's going to do that. Say infrastructure department, and then what's the project name? Project name is Azure. Say Azure migration. So let's save that information. What will happen, everybody? See that it populates our list immediately, right? For us. Now let's add one or two more informations. Let's say web development project. Yeah, that's the project. Web development project lead is probably John Doe. And then what are we doing in this? So creation of an aggregator, something like that. And then what department? Say software development. What's the project name? Project name is say search aggregator. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, let's do that. So let's save that. And then I'm going to create one more just to make our list on our app more interesting. The last one, let's make it something not technical. Project title is say audit, yeah, audit check, something like that. And then project lead is probably let's do Alex Wilber, something like that. And then just checking last 10 years, like that, right? Finance record. And what department is that? Let's say it's marketing, and then project lead is probably Renny Lu. something like that, and let's say so that's fine. So we have about three informations in this data source now that we have right now. So let's say I want to build an application around it. I want Power Apps to talk to it. Maybe Power Apps should be able to um, write into this or something like that. Now, if we go to Power Apps, let's go back to office.com, everybody. I can easily go to Power Apps from here, just right click and open it in the new tab. It opens Power App up for us, right? When we get to Power Apps is for building enterprise applications. When you want to build enterprise applications, that is what Power Apps is meant to do. Remember when I had a session last December with us, I was able to break each of these four, you know, solutions in Power Platform down to us, right? So now this is the Power Apps. Right now in Power Apps, we want to build an application in this case, right? So I go to apps, right now, and I want to build an application. Now, what I want to do is I want to build this application starting from the data source, right? I want to build it starting from the data source. So, and our data source in this case is what? SharePoint. Don't forget. And in SharePoint, we have some data already, right? So if you look at it, I have 3 data in my database. So let's see the synchronization. Now, let's start from SharePoint. All right, I click on SharePoint. What happens? You see that Power Apps builds up, Power Apps locates SharePoint. You see that Power Apps don't just locate SharePoint. Power Apps located SharePoint and then located even other data sources that are available. OneDrive is a data source. Microsoft Dataverse is a data source. So it locates all that data sources that are available for me. But in this case, I want to use SharePoint. So because SharePoint is my data source, is where my data is living currently, I click on SharePoint and then immediately you see it brought all the available SharePoint sites for us. So SharePoint has so many sites, it brought all of them out for us. Then the question would then be, where is my data in those sites? My data is here in Stringify training. So I click to open Stringify training, and you see that what it populates all my list. All my list. Now, what is the name of our list? I think we named it training list. Exactly. Training list. So let's select training list and then we connect. So now we are doing an handshake between our application studio and then our data source. So Power Apps now is having an handshake with SharePoint. So you see that now. What is making this possible? It is called a connector. So there's a connector that is sitting in between Power Apps and then making us talk to what? SharePoint. It's called SharePoint connector. So if I come here on my left on the screen, I'm going to explain where I am for you. You see that what this is called what? A data connector. Can you see the connection here? It says connection SharePoint. Can you see that? Connection SharePoint. SharePoint is the connection. So you see that that's a data connector. It allows us what? Talk to SharePoint. Now Power Apps is seamlessly talking to SharePoint. Everybody, if you look at my screen, this is the Power Apps Studio. If you've not seen this before, this is what we call Power App Studio. This is where you build Power Application. If you look at my screen, everybody, can you see what the magic that happened? It brought our data. Can you see my data here? It brought it into Power Apps with ease. It brought it in with ease, with all of the information. You see that? I'm sure. And then we have what we call the tree view here. On the tree view, we have 3 screens: browse screen, detail screen, and edit screen. All right, this training is not for that. However, I can show us browse screen is showing us all we have in a gallery. This is a gallery that is holding all of this. A gallery is holding this information. That's what gallery does. We have detail screen. Detail screen is showing all the information of a particular item. All right, the information of a particular item is what detail screen is showing on this application. And then the edit screen is then where you pass in info. So if you are saving new information into a database, then on the edit screen you are able to then pass that information in. So you see that automatically from our data source we are able to do this. Now the question you ask is, can I do this starting from Power Apps? Yes. So you can connect. I'm going to show us an example of, I'm already in Power Apps. Can I query a data source? But don't forget, the data source we are working with here, everyone, is what? Is Tabula. This is what? A tabular data, because we have it in a table format, right? Columns and then rows, columns and rows, and then you see that what we have our apps here. I can decide to what? Submit a different information. Let me preview the app, and then let's submit a different information. uh let's call it let's call it check, something like that. as our title, check. Who is doing the check? Let's call it my company name. Stringify company is the one doing it. What are we doing? So the project is checking to see that Power Apps connects to SharePoint correctly. And then you see, when I clicked on department, you see, it populates the 4 departments for us. Remember, we have 4 departments in our choice. On our choice column here, we have 4 departments that we passed in here. Can you see the 4 departments that we passed in on our SharePoint? So when we go back to our apps, we have all 4 departments. So let's say who is doing the check, software development, what's the project name? Project name is validation, something like that. Just give it a name. No issues. Can even attach a file, and then I can add a button here, and I can just click here. But I like to do button. I don't know. I like to do button. Button looks nice, so I'm gonna add a button. Everybody, I just go to insert, bring in a button. Yeah, let me just drop a button here. You see, it looks nice. Yeah, I can now call it submit. Yeah, submit button, and then easily on this submit, I can now change the code to something like, okay, submit this form. Let's submit this form. And what is the form? Edit form 1. Right? Edit form 1. What is it? That's it. And then I close my code. So you see, I'm saying submit edit form 1. If I click on edit form 1, everyone watch. You see, select. Can you see? It select this form. It select the form. So that shows you that that's the form. We're correct, right? I can drag if you want to be sure. Let's drag it. You can see that that's the form, right? So we're correct. So I'm saying to the button that what when I click on this button, submit this form for me. That's what I'm telling it. Simple as that, right? I'm sure if I go on this icon also, you see the same thing is on the icon. Submit form edit. So it's the same thing. So let's play it. And then we'll fill our information. Now let's submit. Click on submit. And then it's running. Don't worry. If we're building the app on a large scale, we would put more like a pop-up that will tell me it has submitted successfully. But for now, let's go and check our database, everyone. And then you can see that what check is here. Can you see check stringify company? Click to see software development. Can you see that the information came in, right? Don't worry, it override one of them. I know what's going on, but don't worry, it's not a troubleshooting time on this call. But you can see that what it override one of them in this case. So you can see that now that what Power Apps is even writing into that database now. You see, that's how interesting it is now. So there's a good handshake between them, and that's a tabular data source. What about function data source? So when we talk about function based or action based data source, what are we talking about? So we are talking about data sources that let me show you. I wrote some points here. So they are dependent on an action. So an action must happen. For example, I might say that what get iOS manager or get somebody's manager. Don't forget that I'm performing an action. I can say send an email. That's an action. It's different from what we just did now on SharePoint, that we have a table and then we have to write into the table or uh, output the table information. But when it comes to action-based data sources, we are talking just as the way the name sounds, action-based or function-based. We are saying that what okay, get email, send email, get something or post something. So it's an action. So it focuses more on things like your libraries, your file storage. You can use your OneDrive, your SharePoint libraries, and all of that. So it kicks off from an action, right? Let me show us an example of what I'm saying here again. All right. If I go back to my app and I bring in a label, let us bring in a quick label. Let me add a different screen so that it can be clear. Let us bring in a quick new screen. So I have a blank screen. Perfect. Let's bring in a label. So I have a label here. Watch this label, right? That's text. So uh I want to change the code here of this label, and I want to say, let me see. Okay, before I can do that, remember I need to bring in that data source I want to use. So I want to get somebody's manager. Before I can do that, I need to look into what data source will help me to do that. I'm in Microsoft, right? So I need to look into Office 365. So I'm going to go look for what Office 365 data source. Can you see select a data source? So I'm going to search for it, Office 365, and then can you see it? Users. I connect to it. Watch. It's going to bring it in. Let's go. Excellent. So we see that we have it here now, right? So I can now come back to my label now and write a function to say of check Office 365 say dot manager. All right. Okay, Office 365 users dot manager. Okay, v2, and then let me look for. I think I have a user. Let's pick this user, DevOps at I think if I'm correct at Ascentech dot on Microsoft micro. Uh, let's confirm if that user is correct. Anyways, let's finish the code. And then I want to get the manager's name, right? Let's get the manager's display name. Let's see whether it works. Oh, it worked. Excellent. So you can see that this is the manager of this user. If I go to portal.azure, we should confirm whether that's the manager actually, right? Portal.azure.com, and then we confirm. Well, you see that what it brought in the manager of that user. But let's confirm further to be sure that well that's the correct manager and not that we are lying in this case. So let's go to Azure. Let's go to the users. So this is Azure, everyone. Let's look for that user. That user is called DevOps. Can you see the user here, DevOps? Let's open the user up and then let's look for the manager. So you can see that the manager is correct. This is the manager, right? This is the manager. And then what's the role of the engineer, DevOps engineer? So we can query mail. I say I want to get the email of the manager, right? If I remove this and I do mail, I get the mail of the manager. Let's see it brings the mail of the manager out. I can change and look for other things, maybe the job title of the manager. I don't know. Let's see what's the job title. Is a director. Excellent. So you see that this is function based. Now let me show us this same action when we go to Power Automate, because Power Automate makes it. This is Power Apps. Let's check it in Power Automate. All right. Before after that, then I'll just show us one or two things more, and then we can take in questions before we then wrap up. Let's do a quick Power Automate and let's see how both tabular and function based can work. Okay. Uh, From here, I can say, let me just manually trigger. This is welcome to Power Automate, everyone. I'm sure we are familiar with it. I want to submit information into that table, SharePoint, and I want to also work, and I want to use a function base at the same time. So let's try both of them. So I want to say that what? Create an item in the SharePoint list. Create item. It's going to ask me for which site, stringified trainings. Okay, I'm going to look for my list. I think it's called training list. Excellent. What happens? It brings out all the columns. Can you see the columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 columns. If I check it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. 5 columns, and it brings it down in part. So you can see you can see how connectors work. So this is a connector here, everybody. It's called SharePoint connector. And you will wonder that, but I search for create item. What is create item? That's a metadata of that connector, right? So the connector has many data points, and one of them is create an item or create item in that SharePoint. So I want to write to SharePoint. Let's see whether it works. Title. Let's give it a title and call it. You can manually put this in, or you might not manually put this in. You might want to be getting the information from somewhere and use Flow to and use Power Automate to save it to your SharePoint. Those are automation points that you want to enjoy. All right. But in this case, let's just manually put it in, and then let's call the title. Let's say last test, and then let's call the project lead DevOps engineer. That's the project. What's the description? Testing from Power Automate, and then what's the value? Product design. What's the project name? Project name is Power Automate. Let's do that. And I so if I do that, I want to add another step. I want to say that what once that is saved, send an email to me. So now watch everyone. Notice that what when I let me click Office 365. So this is another connector called Office 365. That's a connector. Now, but this connector has so many action cards. Can you see the action cards here? These are so many action cards, like too many metadata, just like we have it on SharePoint. Now, you will ask yourself, is it tabular? Is it function based? So if you look at what I have here, this is tabular because what it gives us what the columns on our database. These are action based. Watch, if I click on send an email, you see it brings more like an email body for you. This is what you do when you go to your normal email, right? If I open Outlook right now, everyone, right? So this is what you will do if you want to send an email in Outlook. You will probably just have your to field, your subject, and then your email body. That is exactly the same thing that you just saw now, right? So if I click on new message, you will see that what these three fields is the same thing you just saw on my Power Automate function. So what's this function we're trying to do? We're trying to send an email. Compared to what we did in SharePoint, we are talking to a table. You see the difference now. One is driven by an event. One is what a structured table language or a structured table view. Excellent. So let's say send an email to me. So let me pass my email address, ayo@accentech. You should bring it up now. Excellent, that's me. Say testing function based connector data source. And hello, Ayo. Earn these works. So you see that what I've done two things. This is tabular based data source used here. This is function based data source used here. So let's run it manually. It's a manual flow. So let's save the flow and then let's test. Continue. Run the flow. Done. So beautiful. So let's see. The flow is successful. Let's go and check. On our database, beautiful. It entered last time. DevOps engineer, testing Power Automate, product design. See that? Beautiful. It came in. Let's go and check our mail. You see, the mail says what? Hello, Ayotunde, confirm this work. It works fine. We can even pass all of this information in that mail, right? We can go here into the mail, edit, open the mail, and then confirm this. You can say confirm this information is correct, something like that, and then we can start passing the information in. The title, I can tap it down and say project lead, tap it down and say project description, tap it down and say tap it down and say project name. You can do all of those things. You can structure it more than me. Don't mind me. You can do a better work. I can do things like this. Title equals to this. Okay, so you can do title equals to this. You can still bring it down. And come on now, come on. Okay, let me just give them some kind of ample space so that it looks nice a bit. uh Project lead, let's bring it down a bit again, and then let's call it department value, something like that. And then let's bring it out again and let's call it project description. And let's bring it out again and call it project name. So I would not want to fill that again. Let me go and delete that entry in our database. So I can delete this entry and then let's run the flow again. Let's see whether it comes in again. So we don't have that entry again, right? Let's run the flow again. Let us call the flow Tabula function based flow. Yeah, great stuff. All right. Now let's test our flow one more time, everyone. Let's test the flow. So you see the beauty of automation Can you see our information is here? Checking to see. Excellent. No, that's not it. That's not it. I've not seen it. Okay, here it is. Last time. So you see, it's here now. The information is here. Let's check our mail and let's see the beauty of what happens. You see the beauty of what happens now in the mail. I can format it and make it more fine and all of that. You see, the title is last time. The project lead is DevOps engineer. The department value is product design. The project description is this. The project name is this. See that the beauty of automation. So we're able to do that. But the idea is no automation is done without data source. No data source can be spoken to without data connector. So we speak to data sources via data connectors, right? And then so you can see the synergy between all of them in this case, right? All right. So we see that now we have tabular form and we have function based, but the idea is they are all connectors. Now there's one more thing I want to talk to us about, and is how do you choose data connect your data sources when you're working with data sources? How do you choose? Now you wonder when I just did my test now or my demo now, how did I make sure that I'm choosing this at this time and all of that? See, a very important thing to note when you're choosing data connector is that to make sure that your data source resonates with your use case. So what's my use case? My use case is I want to send an email. The question would then be, if I want to send an email, am I going to be sending an email from a table point or from a function point? Do you understand? So that gives you that orientation of what kind of data connector are you going to leverage on in this case, or what kind of data source are you trying to talk to? You need to confirm what action you're trying to perform, right? Against that data source. So I'm trying to perform a send an email action, and I love to use SharePoint. Can SharePoint send an email? No. Can Outlook save tabular informations? No. So you need to put those things in side by side and analyze. Now, so you need to place connectors in their in their types and accessibility. Is it tabular? Is it function based? And all of that. Is it third party? If it's third party, does Microsoft have that connector built? If they don't, do I need to build a custom connector? If I need to build a custom connector, does the third party data source have an API I can talk to? These are questions you ask yourself before you start. As an architect, as a consultant, as a developer, you must do that always. As somebody who's just coming into tech, don't rush into anything, all right? Like, and ask yourself, are you familiar with that data source, right? Because I want to talk to an Excel now, the question would be, are you familiar with Excel? Do you know how to use Excel? Are you confident on how Excel data source works? You need to ask those questions, right? Does it meet your business or implementation goal? You ask those questions. So we don't just rush into develop. Yeah, it's interesting to build. I know many of us saw me do demo. It looks interesting. You want to get on it also. That's fine. But you need to get yourself to that point where you can answer the tough questions, right? And all of that. And you know what is the do's, what is the don't. Right. And like I wrote on my screen, always read up on connectors documentation, guys. Always read up on connectors document is in always. Let me show you guys something so that you understand why I said always make sure you read up on connectors documentation. So let's pick one of the connectors we just used, SharePoint connector. So in Microsoft. So let's pick it up. Let's pick that and then let's check. Come on now. Skip this for me. Okay, let's do this. Verify. All right, excellent. So SharePoint connector, where's Microsoft? Okay, this is it. Watch this, everyone. This is SharePoint connector documentation. See, when you want to use a connector, you come here first and then you check what are the known issues and limitations. So before you start building that app, you need to confirm what are the known issues, what are the limitations, right? You need to also confirm what is the throttling level. How many times can you query the connector? You need to check all of those things. Can you see? It says you can call SharePoint 600 times in 60 seconds. You need to confirm this kind of these are answers you must give before you start saying this is the data source I want to talk to. Be sure to check what they offer. Check their security, check their data protection structure. Do a check on their throttling like I showed you now. For custom connectors, always try to test it in other platforms. Test it in Postman, in Swagger. test them. I do my test in those places first. If I write a connector myself or I wrote an API, I try to test them first before you bring them into Power Platform, before you start using them in Power Platform, all right? And then don't use preview connectors in production, guys. If you see a connector in preview, try not to use it in preview because it will have bugs. There's going to be updates and a lot of things like that. Wait till general availability. I know a lot of us do. We use preview and all of that, but it best practices is don't use a connector also you're not familiar with. Don't use a connector that is out of support or deprecated. Microsoft says they're no more using a connector, is deprecated. Don't put yourself in trouble, because if you build your entire organization's process on it and there's an issue, you don't get support from Microsoft, it becomes a big issue for you. You have to probably rebuild your entire system, okay? And then there's something we call data policies, guys. Data policies. Do not mix your business data with your non-business data. I think in my upcoming training, I don't maybe next month or next 2 months, I'll be talking about data policies, setting up data policies, permissions, so you know how to categorize your data. What data should be under business, what data should be under non-business, what are the criteria for separating them, so that you don't get to post your organization's credentials on social media because you have those two connectors in the same data unit. Very important. And then when you are building your applications, there are warnings that might come. Sometimes do not ignore those warnings. Try to understand what those warnings are. If I go to Power Automate and I try to do a connector like let me try to do this get item, for example. If I click on get item, it's a connector I know I like to give a warning, and I do get items, for example, from SharePoint, and I select stringify training, and I do my list. What's my list again? Training list, and I do list of entry. Just let me just pick something just for the sake, and let me leave every other thing. Let me not even pick anything, and let me try to save. Watch what happens when I try to save everyone. Okay, it saves. Let me try to use it somewhere else. Let me try to pick an information from it somewhere. Let's say from get item. Where's get item? Let me try to pick an information. Okay, say I pick project lead, something like that. Let's save. Okay, that's fine. Saving. Okay, but okay, I think it's because I did this. Let's. Okay, good. Can you see now? You see that immediately I try to save. See, there's a warning. The warning says updating action, get item to use what an old data filter queries can improve the performance. So it's giving us a warning or a best practice. When you see this most time, try to understand what it means. Try to read the documentation, get what they're trying to say, and don't just ignore warnings. Don't just ignore warnings. Before you can say, okay, no problem, I can move on. It must be that you understand what that warning is. All right, that's very important when we're working with what data connectors. All right, everyone. So you see that today what we have been able to do is we've been able to look into what data sources, right? And like I said, data sources are just information point. They help you hold information, they hold data, whether you're using Excel in your organization, you're using SharePoint, SQL database, Oracle database, whatever database you're using. The idea is in Microsoft is able to communicate. Microsoft Power Platform, whether Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Virtual Agent, we're able to communicate with those data sources via what I call what connector. And you see that from the app sample we did and from the flow sample we did, we're able to look at how both Tabula works and how function based work. Okay, so function based is helping you perform instant action, like maybe you want to convert a file from Word to PDF, you want to move that file from one place to another. Those are function based. You are moving a file from one place to another and all of that. You want to convert a file, so those are function based. But when you are writing into a table and all of that, then you are talking about tabular based information. All right, so guys, keep working with data sources. There are a lot of them. I think in coming trainings, I would pinpoint some of them. I'll be doing a training coming very soon on custom connectors. See how you can build custom connectors in case you've checked all the data source Microsoft has and then none of them works for you. You want to build yours. I'll be doing a training to undo that. You know, look at various kind of custom connectors everywhere, data sources everywhere. You have personal ones you're using in your organization. You can extend them to Microsoft via custom connectors and all of that. So, data sources are key, because without data sources, there is no Power Platform. So without data sources, we can't build anything. I can't show you anything like I just did. I can't go to Power Automate to do anything. Like I said at the beginning, Power Platform is a data-driven system. All right. Thank you very much. I hope. Does anybody have a question? Any question? Any question on Teams? Any question? Those on you, those joining us from, I think, YouTube side. Any question? If you have a question on Teams, let me know. Okay, someone just dropped a question on YouTube. Okay, good. Okay, so okay, okay, okay. So the question here says that can we use both tabular and function based in the same flow or app? Yes, you can. You can do that. If you look at the app I created earlier, the one I showed to us, let's go back. You would see that this is a tabular uh connection, right, to a data source, while this is send an email is function based. So you can use them both in a single, maybe in a single flow or in a single app. It's possible to do that. It's possible to do that. Okay. Okay. One more question says, okay, in building custom connector, can we make it function based or table? Yes, you can. You can make it. Let me show us something. I think I have something open somewhere. Uh Let me see if I can drag a screen here. So if you look at this screen here, I have a custom connector somewhere on this account. Let me open my custom connector. And this custom connector is function based, right? You can have, okay, not this account, not this account. Not this account. I thought I have this account open. So okay, notwithstanding, anyways, I thought I had the account open. Notwithstanding, you can have a custom connect. Okay, excellent. I've seen what I'm looking for. Okay, not still this. Not still this. Don't worry. So you can have a custom connector, whether as a tabular or function based. So for function based, the API endpoint will probably give you their API URL, whether it's post, whether it's get URL, they will give it to you. Now, if it is tabular, they will give you their schema. What do we mean by schema? Schema is your key and your value pair. Your key will be, okay, the key is title, and then the value is a string. The key is number, or the key is uh, address, and then the value is integer. So they will give you that kind of schema, and that kind of schema is what you use to build your custom connector. If it's function based, they will give you the API URL, and that's what you will use to build your custom connector. I hope that is clear. All right, excellent. All right, any question is already one. We'll hit the hour mark. Any question from anybody? Any question from anybody? Okay. Okay. All right. I got you, Adebimpe Shobola. I got you. That's fine. That's understood. So we're working on that. We're working on having classes that are for beginners, and classes that are for intermediate, and classes that are for professional. So for beginners, we will let you know our approach to that, and then for intermediate and for expert. Okay, don't worry. Reach out to me. All right, reach out to me on LinkedIn. All right, and then we can talk further. Let me just drop. I can drop that for everyone. We can talk further so that I can get informed when we have those trainings coming up. All right, we can get involved and not lose out. The idea is to make sure that we bring everybody to knowledge of these things. All right, so you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to answer everybody. Thank you everybody for joining this training. Watch out, more trainings are coming up. Our YouTube channel is coming up live very soon, in a few days or few weeks now. Our YouTube channel will be live. We will have tutorials go on board back to back to really help a lot of people. And like you said, these sessions will break it down more. We'll have some that will be beginners focused. We have a series for beginners so that we can follow a pattern for beginners. We have a series for intermediate and all of that. So when we have that structure, we'll send it out to everybody, and then just stay tuned with us, and then we have a lot of things for you. Thank you everybody for joining this session today. Please do have a wonderful time. If you have any question that you can't remember right now, you can just buzz me on LinkedIn, chat me up with a question, and I'll be glad to answer. Please do have a wonderful weekend, everybody, wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon, and then enjoy yourself. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and then do have a wonderful weekend.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys for watching today's episode. If you have any question, drop in the comment section below. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers, everyone.